You need that. Did that do what I think it did?
Yeah, it's over here.
Groovy. Don't make a noise.
Me?
No.
Oh.
Okay, we should be live.
I think we're live. Yeah, no, we're good.
Oh, yeah.
Who are you? There's one person in here. Is this a one-on-one chat today? Cass gone. Cass is gone. Hey, it's Mike.
Oh, it's him.
Mike.
They're Mikhail.
Yeah, I got it off today. Thank God. And it's still broken. The doctor showed me the x-ray and he's like, yeah, no, it's healed enough to take the cast off. I'm like, that still looks the same. It's still completely broken, so I don't know. It's fine though. It'll be all right. I can still cast. I can still hook set.
And that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Onwards and upwards. Hey, it's my favorite saying. Oh, that fan feels magical.
I feel wrong right now.
Why?
My shirt.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I know.
Good old Travis. Support friends. He's not our friend. He doesn't talk to us. I don't mean that in a bad way. He doesn't talk to me. I know. Nobody talks to me. There's something about me that everybody's like, let's not talk with him or work with him. Everybody else is like, yeah. Go to evening. David, evening. That's pretty gnarly. Not gonna lie. Did you wash?
Dude, I got it off, and the guy's like, "You want to wash it?" I'm like, "Yeah." I just like jumped up and ran over to the sink. I was like, "Oh my God!"
Scrub all that gross off.
That was so gross.
Oh, all right. We're gonna not wait as long as we normally do before we jump into this. So hopefully everybody starts showing up. How's everybody doing tonight? We got a few things to cover for recaps because we weren't here last week, and I'll explain why. What else was I gonna say? I don't know. It's been busy, but a good busy. A really good busy.
Yeah, it's been busy. Well, I've gone out a few times. As much as I can.
I got out once or twice last weekend. Dude, that was like the most fun, disappointing weekend I've ever had.
I believe it.
I just like, you know how the largemouth get when it's pre-spawn. We'll get into it. But yeah, it was just insanity.
Bam.
Dude, it was like clockwork. You just go into like one of these three areas and they were just there nonstop. You literally could not make a bad cast. I went from the shoreline 500 feet out over probably like 1,500 feet, and it didn't matter where you looked. Anywhere there was 2 to 3 pounders cruising everywhere, just bombing around. It was nuts. I've never seen quite that many fish.
Hello.
Hey, Dylan.
Chris brought me to his spot.
Oh yeah. That place is dope.
That place is really cool.
Yeah, I really want to go back again. That place is awesome.
I'm really excited.
Hey, what's up, Panda? And Ben, how you doing? Let me know how audio is. One of my buddies, he goes by the Frugal Streamer on YouTube. I had some issues trying to get this whole microphone stuff set up. I know I talked about it a lot in previous streams. I was trying to get like these gain boosters that I plug in back here. They were supposed to be in stock. I ordered them like 3 weeks ago. I got an email. Okay, no, they're actually back ordered till September, even though the website said that they were live, like that they were available. So then I dealt with a woman on the phone, lovely woman, and she's like, okay, well, we'll do these. And then I get an email the next day. Sorry, those are out of stock too. Oh my God. Said, reached out to my buddy. He was like, well, do this inside your streaming software and it'd be good. And I did. And just from me testing it, this is by far the clearest and like loudest sound I've had so far for the setup. And I'm still not even done. There's still a couple more settings I can do to like really bring out like the richness of the audio. So onwards and upwards, Mr. Mike. So just let me know how it is. We can adjust. I might be a little too loud. Andrew might be a little too quiet, but you know, we'll adjust on the fly as we go. It is 8:05. A lot better. I agree. Sounds right. Yes, that makes me happy.
What kind of car is that?
Oh, Kotu's? That looks like a Subaru from back here.
Subaru or a Civic Si?
That would be my other guess.
Or
a little rounded on the corner. That's not BRZ.
I can't tell what it is.
It's the great guessing game. Kotu?
It's got gold wheels. I think.
I want to see it.
I could be colorblind too.
Before we get started, everybody that's here, thank you. Greatly appreciate you being here for the start. And if you could do me a favor, both like the stream, share it if you haven't yet. That always helps bigly, hugely. And other than that, let's get into it. I don't want to wait too long when we do this, like we have in the past. It's 8 o'clock start time. We're gonna start rolling into it. I was actually just talking to Andrew. What I want to do is have him edit up like a friggin' sweet little, like 60-second. Ah, son of a bitch, it wasn't BRZ. Sweet little like 60-second, like basically like montagey kind of intro video. Do like a little like 60-second countdown thing, roll into that, and then stream starts. And just to have a little more consistency rolling into the beginning of these, which would be pretty nice. Hey, fishing mode.
There might be lasers.
That would be awesome. The final countdown.
Is this about fishing?
I mean,
Well, it
kind
might
of.
be.
A little bit. Hey, Chris. So, let's jump into it. Let's recap. Let's start with you, because I don't actually... No, we did talk a little bit. I want to hear how it went. Hey, fishing mode. While I was gone at Champlain. Because I know you went out for the night bite.
Yeah,
I want to hear about all the water temps and all that stuff.
Okay, water temps were over 60, like 61, 62.
At what time of the day?
Towards like sunset.
Really?
And then it dropped off to like 60. It was just pretty much steady 60.
All right.
Went back into that small little area.
Yep.
Nothing.
At the outlet.
Yes.
Really? So you're too late.
We got one fish that day.
Too late. That sucks.
Yeah.
We missed the window.
I don't know if the one I got was off of... No, the one I got was on the glide.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. On the,
up in the grass flats. And that was the only bite that day. The next day we went out up to that small little glacier pond. It was tough. It was really tough. I threw a glide pretty much the entire day. Little swim bait, jig.
Which place? The one you like to go to?
Yes.
My bad juju spot?
My good juju spot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you went there.
Yeah, we went
See?
up there
Playing catch
with
up.
Chris. And then saw a bunch of fish cruising. Just couldn't get any of them really to commit. Got Chris on his first smallmouth of the year. It was off a bed, but
Yep.
it was still a good fish. The other guy that was out there that you know, they didn't do too bad. I mean, they didn't do good. But they also didn't
that
do-
place. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the other place where I totaled my boat trying to go to launch all those years ago with Kimball. The one right off the side of the road.
No.
You drive by it to go to the place you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
no.
I remember now.
Not there. No.
I saw the one fish that one of them. Well, they both.
They got a couple good fish. They
Yeah.
definitely did.
Did they
but-
say it must have been off beds?
I think it might have been.
Yeah.
But just the actual pre-spawn, post-spawn, they were shut off. I don't know what was going on. Couldn't figure them out.
It's like right. So that's really why I want to talk about this. Not necessarily just to specifically talk about bed fishing, although that's obviously a big part of this. Is to talk about like this transitional period can be really tough because literally in the matter of half a day, you can go from being frustrated beyond belief, seeing literally hundreds of fish, to you can't catch them fast enough.
Right.
So it's just tough with timing.
I
But
think if we would have waited them out, we would have started catching them.
probably.
But we ended up moving to that other pond and started catching them on jigs.
Yep.
Yeah, it was darker water. It was just, I think it was warmer. We didn't have the grass or anything. So.
Well, given how shallow that place is and how smaller it is, if the pond in which we do not speak was low 60s, then that pond was probably the same, if not warmer.
I think it was warmer. It
So
was pretty warm.
that place was
by
like-
hand, by touch.
Yeah.
It was warm.
It was probably mid to upper 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, fishing mode. I saw that, buddy. When you went, that Squam was that warm. That's insane.
Yeah, you guys are crushing them on the jerkbaits that day.
Yep. Saw one smallmouth in a bed in 52-degree water in a big lake. Yeah, I believe it. There's always the eager beavers that get out there way earlier than you think. Excuse me, big burp. Yeah, Cam, not at all surprised for spawners and Winnie. Winnie's one of those lakes where, depending on where you're at, you can find them in all three phases in one day. You can go out and crush some good pre-spawners. You can go stack them up off beds, and then yes, you do, David. And then you go find some post-spawn smallmouth kind of roaming outside, just back off that edge again. Oh, all right, my turn for the recap for Champlain. It was, as I said to Andrew, like at the very beginning of the stream. So for those that weren't here yet, you missed it, but I'll repeat the point. It was both the most fun yet disappointing weekend I've ever had. great company. I got to go with my buddy Dennis, Bill, Kristen, my friend, and her wife, Rebecca. And we got to stay up in Grand Isle, Vermont. Awesome cottages up there. Cottages. Ha. Yeah. And that place was all over the place. We stayed inside of a bay, right? And inside the bay, when we got there Thursday afternoon, it was already 61 degrees. I went out into the west side of the main part of the inland sea. I found 47-degree water. Jesus. Not even a half mile away.
Oh my god.
Actually, no, it was probably like a mile and a half. But nonetheless, like at that point, you're working pretty much in the main current of the lake. And it just pulls in tons and tons and tons of cold water, especially from that really deep water, like adjacent to the point. I couldn't believe it. I literally left where I docked my boat. At that point, early in the morning, it was only 59 degrees. And a mile and a half later, it was in 47-degree water. And I didn't go straight north or straight south. I went straight friggin' west. That big of a difference. And then I went out to the other side of the inland sea, and it was 56 degrees out in the middle of the lake.
Jesus. It's like a 10-degree difference. Oh, it is a 10-degree.
Fishing in really big water is difficult enough as it is. Add in the fact that you have such wildly different water temperatures over only a couple miles. Like, dude, my brain was not happy about it. I couldn't figure out, like, shit, do I need to be out deep? Should I be up shallow? Should I be fishing finesse? Should I be power fishing? Like, I literally, no matter where I went, it was like a 3 or 4 degree temperature change. And each, like, starting, we'll say 47, disregard that one point. Like, everywhere else was like 50 to 51 or 53 to 54. And then I had a couple areas that were 56-ish. And then I had the shallow flats that were like 62. Depending on where you are, those are all entirely different situations when you go out bass fishing, whether it be largemouth or smallmouth. Like, I could completely re-rig everything I'm doing and what depths I want to focus on for any one of those narrow windows of weather temperatures. I could not make up my mind on where the hell I wanted to be. And turns out, I had to be really stupid shallow for the smallmouth. And that's where it was disappointing, because I could not figure out the smallmouth to save my life. I had one good little window with Kristen, first thing Friday morning. We caught 6 total off of one 50-foot stretch of shore, and that was it. It was insane. Yes, that is a smallmouth crush shirt. Yeah, Panda, I'm curious what your water temps out there are SoCal. You're probably already like mid-70s, yeah. Yeah, David, you gotta get on that chatterbait, buddy. Chris, how you doing, buddy? Where's my mouse? Come back here. Here you are. Oh god, I hope I didn't click something by accident. Nope, we're good. Whoa! Is it really that warm at BIP? Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, that place is dark. It warms up pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty damn small. And it's
what, Big Island Pond?
Yeah.
It's not that small.
Well, it's a couple hundred acres.
It's more than that. It's probably like 5 or 6.
That's okay. It's several hundred instead of a couple hundred. Yeah.
Maybe more.
This guy.
Maybe more than that.
73 today on Rhode Island. Jeez, that's insane. Yeah, Grat, that's the thing. Like, I literally caught 6 smallmouth, I think it was, off beds. But I'm not counting that as smallmouth on a bed. And it was giant, shallow, sandy flat, 2 feet of water. And I just found one here and there. And I actually uploaded a stupid little short to YouTube where I caught one off a bed that was about 3 pounds. And then I run not even a mile, and I'm back in like 53-degree water. It's just crazy. Little under 600 acres. So my goal for going up to Champlain, to kind of like really wrap up this recap, I want big smallmouth. Like that's what, I mean, Champlain's known for everything. It's got numbers of everything. Every once in a while you run into size. Right. I mean, it's got some wild things. Dude, what are those shiners called? They're like, they look like a shad, almost like kind of shiner, like very just silvery sheen. And they've got those blood red fins. What the hell are those called? Are they shad? Not shad, there's something else. But you know what I'm talking about? What the hell are those things called? I can't remember the name. I know, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Dude, no joke. Like that big. A school of them. Like 30 or 40 of them, all like 12 to 14 inches long, roaming in a freaking foot of water up in the reeds. I thought I was chasing these giant smallmouth at first, and I was like, that's nuts. They're all up running super shallow. Nope, just these weird looking giant freaking fish. It was insane. But yeah, I mean, I went up there for the smallmouth, and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't wrap my head around it. My buddy Dennis was amazing. I was like really looking forward to this vacation. Yep, literally that. Rudd. Okay. American Shad. I think that might be the name for it. Panda.
Probably is. Pretty much the same thing.
Hey, Dog Swampy. Glad you can make it, buddy. But I went there looking for smallmouth. Dennis gave me all his spots. It was great because like every other fishing vacation we've been on so far, like we've had to put in like a ton of work. A lot of prep work, you know, talking to people that are willing to give up spots and just like general info for stuff to kind of cut down that learning curve. Still cover a ton of water because every other fishing vacation I've done has been big places. And Champlain is by no means small, but a lot of his spots he had were all kind of close. He gave me all his like secret sauce for baits and everything. Like, I wasn't the only one that couldn't put it together, thankfully. Dennis, I mean, he still caught some good ones, but like, you know, we weren't like killing it like I was thinking we were gonna. But we also didn't fish some other areas where other guys I know killed it. And they were way shallower than I looked. So that was just on me, but whatever. I caught fish literally every day I went there. I caught, my worst day was my first day. I only caught 15. And I caught 17 on the second day. Third day, I caught 20. All working shallow, largemouth, a couple smallmouth off beds. And then the last day was Sunday. I swung for the fences. I went out strictly looking for smallmouth, and I heard from a lot of people that it was terrible on Sunday. It was dead slick calm, bluebird skies, beautiful weather, absolutely beautiful to be on the lake, middle of the friggin' inland sea, and it was glass, and it made it really tough. Hey, Rich, glad you can make it, dude. Oh yeah, Panda. Actually, gizzard shad. That's like, it looks kind of like that.
Yeah, it's like a big golden shiner kind of thing looking dealio. Shad.
Yep.
Shiner crossbred thing.
Yeah, David, absolutely. I'm not even the least bit surprised. That topwater bite on Squam can be pretty magical. E4T6 pre-spawn jerkbaits, dude. I tried like hell.
It's E46. It's a BMW thing.
Oh, ha. I tried like hell, and I didn't get a single bite, not a single fish on the jerkbait. But when I switched to largemouth, we saw them just bombing flats. They were definitely not on beds. They weren't even close. There was a couple we caught where you could tell their tails were beat up from the start to fan, but just blind casting this giant flat, literally featureless, except for little patches of vegetation here and there. Day one was Ned rigs. Just smacked them hard, just bombing around.
I wish I could have gone.
It's all right, baby. We get the fall. It's gonna be even better.
Yeah, true.
And then we went, and then day two, jig. That was amazing. 1/2 ounce mop jig with you know Kyle's favorite bait that he likes to T-rig and throw on jigs. Yep. I bought some of those to throw just on a football jig, basically, or giant shaky head. And I learned that from my friend subscriber Chris. So, and
I've done that. Works really well.
It works really well. But I was looking at what I had for off jig trailers, and it's this giant meaty thing. I'm like, I'm gonna throw the back of my trailer on my jig and see how it looks. And it looked too good to pass up. Dude, they were inhaling it.
That's what I always throw on my jig trailer.
It was just like this,
awesome.
Just chungus friggin' bait sitting down there, giant skirt flared out, and I cracked them hard for like 2 hours when the wind was up on Friday, and then Saturday I got a few more on the jig still, but dude, that chatterbait bite, the jackhammer, went off. Like I said, I was fishing from the shoreline out 500 feet across about 1,500 foot stretch of shoreline. You could not make a bad cast. There were so many fish stacked up there pre-spawn, just roaming, and you could see them. And there was actually quite a few over the course of the 2-day period, that Saturday and Friday, where I was literally sight fishing them. I could see which way they were going. I'd track them for like a couple seconds. I'd pitch my jig 30, 40 feet in front of their face, burn it back, and kill it 10 feet from them. And that would be enough for them to look. And then I just give a little hop, and they'd come up and look at it, and I just let it sit there. And I could watch him. And dude, if a fish could creak from moving so slow, they're like as he's going down, and you could just watch him continue to get more and more vertical. Every single one of these fish, it was like when I sight fished him, it was like 5 or 6 seconds. And then you just kind of like fall into it, and then you feel it was awesome. I love sight fishing largies like that. You'd expect like little dip, 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 dip. Nope, they'd come in 5 or 6 seconds and then just
I kind of
thumped the Christ out of it.
I was thinking about last year when we went to the St. Lawrence and we came back and we went to that tiny pond that I went to.
The
one that I was just at. And that fish that I saw, I was like, it's going to be the same thing. He's going to be up there, and I'm going to come down here. I'm going to catch a 6-pound smallie.
Yeah, probably.
And I was like, as soon as I launched, I saw that fish. I was like, oh my god, 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 oh my god.
That would have been it.
And then it just went gone. No.
I did see one giant smallmouth when the last day, Sunday. It was literally the last spot I tried fishing, and I was getting frustrated. It took me 220 miles to get home from the boat launch I used on Sunday. So it was already like 11:30, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. I got like a 4-hour ride ahead of me. And again, bluebird skies, glass. And I looked over, and I just saw this black blimp swimming at me. I was in 8 feet of water. 5 to 6 pound smallmouth. It came right at me, and it was halfway suspended from the bottom, so only about 4 feet below the boat. It swam right at me, right to the dead center of my boat, in the like slowest, most lazy swim you've ever seen. And went under my boat and parked there for about 30 seconds. I'm looking around like, which way is he coming out? And then right in the exact same path came out from the other side of my boat and just screwed right off.
You didn't give a shit what you were doing.
No, dude, it killed my soul a little bit to see a freaking smallmouth of that size. That absolutely didn't matter. Anywhere in the 5 to 6 pound range. Yeah. My PB is 5 even. So it kind of, it doesn't hurt as much because I caught my largemouth doing that, like having seen it and then catching my PB last year. But it still sucks when you see a smallmouth that big and literally have it come right underneath your feet and still not be able to catch the damn thing. Very good. Richard, lately I'm bringing my 2 favorite of every type of lure I have because if I don't throw the kitchen sink on them, I won't get anything. Yeah, I hear that. That's how it's been for a while, dude. Ooh, Dylan. Stupid the number of 4-pound smallmouth in the Wachusett Reservoir. That's awesome, man. Snatchy Panda. He's back.
Oh, I like that girl.
Now you're talking Andrew's dog. Oh God, Jasper, that's too funny. And David, he was talking with the Cisco fish, and David happens to work at Cisco Brewers.
Oh yeah,
fantastic. So that's kind of the recap in a nutshell. I went up north into Champlain, fished all like the inland sea area. Andrew stayed back here, southern New Hampshire, farted around a couple of our stomping grounds, and finally got to go to one of our mutual friends' little honey hole.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I went once last year in the rain.
I saw a giant there.
I bet.
It was giant.
What day was that?
It was at least 5 pounds.
Yep. I'm trying to think, because I was the only one that went. I don't know why you weren't around. I think I took a random day off. I did.
Over there? Yeah, you went. It was raining.
Like Wednesday or something. And
raining?
Yeah, it was. It was raining hard for a lot of the day.
That little rock out there?
Mm-hmm. And I got 5 1/4. Largemouth on a Texas rig worm.
We're going there. We're just going to work that between the rock and the islands.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be amazing.
That's the only spot I want to hit. And then move up into that.
Oh, David, I want to come up for chili. That sounds amazing.
Chili,
Now I'm hungry again. So that's the. Did you not get food?
No, I didn't.
All right.
I literally ran home and Chris ran me up a bowl of like chicken and rice and like vegetables. I was
nice.
Like, what's this for? He's like, you know. Okay.
Champ. All right. So all 3 phases of the spawn, right? Anywhere pretty much in the northern half of the country, especially New England, depends on what size body of water you're at, what kind of lake. It could be anywhere in any of the 3 phases. Although, yeah, I would even say like the southern end of New England, Rhode Island, like especially if you go even a little further south of that, like New Jersey. I mean, technically, that's still kind of like north. You're probably post-spawn down that way. If you're talking Champlain, there's a good chance the southern end down by like Ticonderoga area, you're gonna start finding some post-spawners down there. Like maybe some of those bigger, shallower bays. It's kind of a stretch at this point, but it's towing the line, right? So I'm not gonna definitively say one way or the other. 1, I don't know, and 2, it's a little too early to be able to like, yeah, confident I can say there's post-spawners. Our area, southern New Hampshire, yeah, there's definitely some post-spawn conditions for smallmouth already.
Oh, for sure, and largies.
Yep.
Absolutely largies.
Talking to one of my buddies. I don't want to give anything away. He just went out night fishing the other day. Placed a really good smallmouth, and it was 63 degrees at night. That's post-spawn. They said they saw a lot of beds and there wasn't a single fish on it. That's done.
I saw that a few times this weekend too.
Yep. So we're a bit of everywhere, especially if you're fishing the big lakes. So what do you do if you want to go for pre-spawn? You got to find bigger, deeper water as far north as you can go. And there's still a narrow window. And just because the bass have pulled up right now doesn't mean every bass is pulled up. They come up in waves. Right now, like if we're talking Lakes region, New Hampshire, Cameron said it, that there's already on Lake Winnipesaukee, there's fish pulling up on beds. That's the initial wave. There's still tons and tons of pre-spawners that aren't ready yet. And they're not going to be ready for another 2 or 3 weeks. So, if you're going out and you're looking for pre-spawners, where are you going?
The lake?
Not even necessarily what lake, but what area of the lake are you fishing?
Respawn? Well, they're
Oh,
going to be...
the pandas are fighting.
Yeah, the pandas are fighting. There's a bear fight in here. You guys need to relax.
Yeah, no, Grat, there's a ton of people fishing. Got a 5-2 at Silver Lake and oh, that's a tank smallie. I know that place. I don't want to go. COVID fisherman out of everyone. Yep, absolutely. COVID forced people to do outdoor stuff.
It's funny because I've seen a lot of people buy boats. A lot of new people who started fishing buying big expensive boats. And now they're selling them.
Oh yeah, they said boats, like high tier boats last year, sales jumped 20%.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane for like high end shit.
Just on Facebook alone, some people I've seen them buying expensive boats because they just get into fishing and now they're selling them because it's
Right.
too much.
Yep.
You don't know that.
Well, actually, before you elaborate, Donk Swampy's actually got a really good question that we can talk about for this. Because this actually is very specific to a place we're probably going to fish on Sunday. How is the spawn affected when water temp jumps from 60 to 70 in just a few days? The whole lake spawned just a couple days? No, but how rapidly that first wave comes up is staggering. We have been on the Brownie Factory where literally in the morning, there's nothing for beds. And then in the afternoon, we'll see dozens already fanned out. Like we'll go work one area, and we saw this last year. We went and worked one specific area, and we like when the pre-spawn's on for there, like it's on. They're just bombing around like 3 or 4 feet of water. Anywhere you can find, a nice juicy boulder or just get a good moving bait going, you're gonna catch them. And nothing. We didn't hit anything. So we're like, okay, well, it's some weird, funk area. So we went and worked everywhere else around the lake, and we came back to that spot end of the day, and we saw literally dozens of freshly fanned beds that were not there that morning. Because it was hotter than hell and it was bluebird skies, and the lake, I think the water temp was like 58, 59 or something like that when we got there. So we knew the weather. We were like, okay, we're on the hairy edge, and sure as shit, all of a sudden there's a ton of beds in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But it's only going to pull up that first wave. You're talking about tens of thousands of bass. They all can't go spawn in one shot. So you still have a ton of pre-spawn opportunities. So that comes back to the question I asked Andrew. Like, what do you like to do when we go up there and we're looking for smallmouth, for like, not even smallmouth or largemouth, and we know like, okay, over here there's a wave that have already moved up, they're fanning off beds. Let's go find water that's a couple degrees colder and try our luck for some late stagers.
Moving baits.
What kind of moving baits?
Chatterbaits. Specifically chatterbaits, we both love to throw. So that's pretty much where we're gonna start. That or crankbaits, like square bills or something, if the bottom is right for it. If you're moving more grassy areas, definitely throw chatterbaits.
Yep.
And you should get smoked, like a lot. We did that up at the place a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, my
A couple weeks ago. I think did I even have a broken arm then?
No, I think it was like a month ago, dude.
It was over a month ago. Yeah, it was the weekend. Yeah, because I broke my arm the next day.
Yep.
Literally
yeah, because we were supposed to go out fishing.
So 4 weeks ago.
Yep. And that the water temp was, kind of prime time right there. The old mid to upper 50s, and they were moving up, and wind and everything was blowing everything down in there, so the fish were stacked up, and it worked killer.
Great.
I want to elaborate on the point of chatterbaits too, because I've heard there's a lot of people that I know that love fishing bladed jig, chatterbait, jackhammer, whatever, bladed jig. There's some contention. Sometimes there's just a difference of opinions when what people use for gear when they're throwing these. I run 2 different setups for my chatterbait, depending on what time of the year it is and what kind of structure I'm fishing. Lately, because the vegetation is still pretty sparse, I like going braid on a medium heavy to heavy rod. I actually have thrown it on 2 different rods. I have a 7.2 medium heavy and a 7.2 heavy, both fast actions. and they both have 30-pound braid. Just one has a 7-2 ratio, the other one is a 6-3-1. I like braid for the chatterbait when I'm fishing sparse vegetation because with just a quick little snap of my wrist, I can pop it free of the vegetation. It only makes a small movement because I didn't have to fight my own stretch, and I catch right back up to it and keep swimming it before I, take it off the next patch of weeds. So I'm still getting time to swim it versus if I'm fishing really heavier vegetation. No, even still, no, sorry, other way around. If it's sparse vegetation, I don't mind fluoro because I snap it. It's going to make a bigger jump because you're fighting the stretch and everything, but you still have time to catch up to it, before you get back into vegetation. Sorry, brain's backwards. But if it's a little bit more condensed, heavier vegetation, I like braid because of the point I just made. Quick little snap, it comes free, you catch right back up to it because it did a small movement. You keep working through, tick, snap it out, tick, snap it out. When I'm working really wide open water, I like going back to straight fluoro, 20 pound on my chatterbait, because then there's no guessing on that. I can drop the hammer on those fish. And if I'm not really worried about vegetation either, then, I can kind of pump it a little bit, which I like to do. I vary my retrieve speed to give it a little snap, just kind of flare the skirt out and make it kind of dart the whole 9 yards. So you kind of really can't go wrong with either one. But that I just want to elaborate on that because that's something that came up actually a lot last year, and then it started to come up again this year. And Cam, no, I do not use a leader when I throw moving bait like that. I just go straight braid or straight fluoro.
I actually just started using braid on mine too.
Yeah, I got a funny phone call. How do you do this? What do you mean? I keep backlashing.
This is bullshit. I hate this freaking braid stuff. 20 minutes later. Okay, just kidding. I like it.
Takes a little bit more dialing in. Especially when you're throwing a 3/8 ounce chatterbait with a big old meaty swim bait on the track.
It's coming out to almost 5/8 to 3/4 ounce bait.
Yeah.
At that point.
Adds up fast.
It works well though. I like it a lot.
Oh, fishing mode. That's what I was doing with my jerk baits. Work it down, let it bang against the rocks. It would chase it to the boat. Stop, give it a jerk, and they would bury it right at the boat. Nice. Snatchy Panda. Throw square bills, get them excited. Seems they get bothered. Thinks it's an intruder. Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually something that I want to talk about for post-spawn too. Excuse me, I keep burping. Stupid beer. But we'll get to that. We're still talking pre-spawn. So, you're looking for the slightly colder water. Your primary is chatterbait, moving bait. What's your secondary?
Jig.
And your tertiary?
My tertiary?
Third.
I don't know, something big.
Something big.
Big, like a wake or a glide.
See, I still don't have the confidence in the glide, but I know that's the right answer.
I do now.
It should be one of the, yeah. I still haven't caught one on a glide, so I don't have that confidence.
It wasn't giant, but it was probably 2.5 pounds, but it was right up in like, I don't know, maybe a foot of water. Cast way up on the grass line, and I was just cranking it, and it caught in the grass, and I snapped it out, and he came up and
smoked it.
I'm like,
yes.
Oh my god,
that's awesome. So I'm in complete agreement with you, and at that point, I'm still looking at the same areas, not just for colder water temp, but back it up a little bit. Like if it's weird, you'll see like pre-spawn cruisers on either side depending on the water conditions, and I mean they'll literally be cruising up on the bank, like on the shore, when there are other bass closer or further out from the shore that are spawning, and these fish just aren't ready. But for the most part, come way back. Not way back, but come way back a little bit deeper, and you can work those areas up those, still kind of on the shallower side of those transition areas, and that's where I typically start to have better success. I'm with him. Chatterbait, spinnerbait if it's windy and or cloudy. Ned rig has been killer for them. Not just from this past weekend, in the past as well.
Yeah, dude, you were catching them in what we were 40-something degree water last year, catching them on Ned rig?
Yep.
Down at, what was it, Bear Hill?
Yeah. Jig, obviously. Square bill. Like, I've talked about this many a time, like, where I found them kind of in pre-spawn mode, and I thrown a square bill, then I threw some lead strips, or the suspend dots underneath to slow that rise back up. Aggressive jerk bait, like things like that. I'm gonna go for a good mix of something big, because at that point they're at like the tail end of their feeding and they're just looking for a giant easy meal. So it's really hard for them to resist a giant freaking bulky profile of the jig, or just something moving at a moderate pace. You don't want to be killing it, like burning it back. You got to give them a chance to come back for it. Vary up that retrieve, but they'll do it. Hey Andrew, we're doing great, buddy. How you doing? Shut up. Yeah, the fishing up north was pretty good. Fishing mode, you're on fire. You get it. Chris, threw the glide for smallies last weekend. Absolute pigs have followed in. No bites though.
I did the exact same thing and had the exact same thing happen. And I was talking to somebody, I think it was just on Facebook. There was a thing going, a bunch of people talking, and
Yep.
some guy said, I forget who it was, it might have been Eric Jose.
Oh yeah.
He said that he was jerking it like a jerkbait, and they were coming up and smashing it
On the glide?
on the glide.
Interesting.
So I'm gonna try doing that this weekend.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're going, especially as it's potentially supposed to be cloudy and rain. It's just gonna keep everybody home.
Kidding me? That's gonna be great.
At least that's what I saw 2 days ago. So who knows? You know how New Hampshire is. Oh, nice, Andrew. That's awesome, man.
Oh yeah, he's got some good baits.
Screw you, Chris. You're gonna beat us there. Good luck, dude. It's.
Good luck.
Hang on. I have intel.
Sniper 4 for me.
Come on, work. Yeah, it's really hard.
And
Whoa, really? Daytime low? It's 54. So it dropped. Oh, it must have gotten pretty cold last night. Huh. You actually might not run into beds up there.
you can run into pre-spawners.
Mm-hmm. Water temp's 54, but it peaked at 62 today. So I guess be prepared to cover the whole lake. You'll find me there on Sunday. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I covered all my baits. Square bill, yep, jerk bait, that came up. A fluke sometimes, a weightless T-rig fluke, if you're fishing around vegetation and you kind of see some activity going up there where you need to get something in there. I mean, it's just a soft body jerk bait. That's how I think about it. And then swim jig with a swim bait trailer. Mint. Love it. Hey, David. Glad you could join us.
Oi.
Nice, Chris. That's awesome. And that's kind of the gist of it. So, wherever you find them spawning, and, more importantly, too, if you find them stacked up pretty well on one side, like, aim for a different area. Like the shadier southern end, sometimes the far northern end. Like, it's weird depending on if there's current available, too. That changes which end of the place is colder. Just keep looking around and keep moving around. There's, unless it's like 68 degrees and literally everywhere you go is beds, you're going to be able to find an area where there are no beds. And same deal, like, even if it's really warm, at that point, you should be able to start finding some post spawners. Although post spawners, my experience, that transition takes a little bit longer.
That's like where a couple of spots that I've been to already have started to fall into where it's getting tough because
they need like a week or two to recover.
Is already spawned out.
Yep.
And they're just kind of like, no, I don't want to eat anything right now. I mean, we've all been in that situation where
right,
you get tired.
Yep.
Oh, hey, you need a break.
Right, and they need to rehydrate.
You go smoke a cigarette.
Hey, Jason. Tim, you were the one that I spoke to on Facebook yesterday, correct? I believe so. My buddy Travis Rocket reached out to you in that same thread. Welcome to New Hampshire, by the way. Glad you could come on up. Enjoy this beautiful state. Snatchy Panda. No, I've never been to Moosehead. I do know that a lot of guys up there do not like smallmouth, so they kill them a lot. I don't know anything about how good the smallmouth is. I only ever hear
killing all the small ones and all the big ones are getting giant.
No, not you. Oh, it's too funny, dude. Literally, I was just talking to a guy yesterday that just moved up to the New Hampshire area from Florida and was asking about summertime bass in the Lakes region. So that's too funny. Tomorrow morning, hope for frog bite. Yeah, it's getting close there, David. Real close. Use the banjo minnow. Didn't watch for this. Oh, nice, Tim. Thank you. Well, hopefully we can help you out. All right, so let's talk about the spawn. This is both. Let me. I gotta be careful with this because I don't want to mislead because it's not. It's probably the most cut and dry thing in the world, but it's not 100% cut and dry. 90% of the fish you come across, it'll be the easiest damn thing you've ever done in your life. Yep. And I have proven that. How many times have I caught fish literally with a bear hook?
Yeah. Yep. I've done it a bunch of times.
Yeah, I'll get my buddy Josh on the phone and I'll have him tell you the story about the time I caught one with my hands. My line broke 30 feet up from my hook. I literally threw a just hook back into the bed and I held onto the line with the other end and I caught like a 3.5 pound smallmouth. It's too easy. And if you do it, that's fine. I don't care. It's really easy. So like I don't like to go up and target anymore. I used to love it. If you've never done it before, do it.
Yeah, it's a blast.
You have to do it. It is the most fun you'll ever have in your life. But when you've done it like 20 or 30 times, you're like, okay, yeah.
I mean, when the bite is completely off and you're kind of starting to lose your mind. You see a couple of beds, you're like,
yeah, you do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I'll try it.
Right, but, especially for someone like, well, you can fish more often, but like me, I get 1 day a week. So if I go to the lake and there's not only fish on beds, yeah, I'm gonna crack the hell out of them, man. Like, I'm not gonna not fish.
Right.
But so what exactly does it take to catch smallmouth on beds? Even largemouth too, but let's talk about smallmouth because that's the one that most people tend to focus on because
it doesn't take much.
No, it really doesn't.
You see the fish. You spot the bed, and then you just kind of creep up and see if somebody's home, or you just snipe it like we do.
Right, yeah, from like 40, 50 feet away, you can do it.
As far as you can. And then you just wait for it to bite, because it will. It doesn't want anything on its bed.
Right.
It's either guarding the eggs or it's guarding the bed. It's waiting for the female to come.
Yep. So, 2 things. Good pair of polarized sunglasses. Heavy line. What? No, we're not talking about that. That's the secret weapon.
Okay.
Because that's coming out on Sunday.
Oh,
because, well, I want to focus.
See it.
So this is the other half of this conversation that I'm going to get to. But first, we're gonna focus on the easy sniping beds. When they're up super shallow, you can see them even from like 30, 40 feet away. You know, like just big sand flat, and all of a sudden you see this one brighter spot. Or if it's chunky rock,
you'll see a darker spot.
Darker spot. You will see a distinctively round, different color. And that's all you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Easy fucking peasy.
Usually looking around rocks or maybe a log or even just a small stick. And anything that...
A cinder block.
Yeah,
you know, from people
block,
like using it as
mooring.
anchors. Yeah, the mooring footings that are like, 3-foot discs of concrete that only stick like 6 inches above the bottom. They'll spawn on those.
Yep.
Literally anything that is hard structure that can take up one direction of the cardinal the compass, like east, north, south, west, whatever. Like it takes up 1/4 of all directions they need to look. That's all they look for. Or just a big old pile of chunky rocks that they can kind of like settle down into.
Yeah, I'm tired of it, yeah.
That's all you're looking for. Don't do light line. I know people, like, if you really know what you're doing and you're careful, you know how to manage your tension, how to properly fight a fish, you've got a net handy and you're, very well versed with like the whole 9 yards, and by all means, do what you're doing. But if you're new to this, do not use light line. You don't have to.
Get that fish in, take the picture, and throw it back.
Get it back.
Because you want to get it back on the bed as soon as possible, because those bait fish, those bluegills and perch or whatever else is out there will come in and they'll start swooping up the eggs.
Yep. That's the biggest thing. The other thing is the fish that you're going to catch off a bed is probably going to be caught 30 or 40 more times. The last thing you need to do is break off a hook on a fish that's already going to get harassed enough as it is. And it's going to be agitated because it's got something foreign stuck in its face. So we've proven it. You could literally go out there and catch these fish with 65-pound braid. so do it. Like go heavy, eliminate that.
You want a challenge though? Try throwing a glide on over it.
I've tried doing it with jerkbait. That's hard.
It's hard.
Trying to get them to eat a freaking sweated jerkbait. That's really hard.
It's tough to get them to commit unless it's like down in the bed.
Yep.
You go around it, it'll chase it around it, but looks like it's just gonna smack it and tow it the hell out of there.
Right. So colors though, when we've done smallmouth, like how often does color matter?
It doesn't.
In 99% of the conditions.
It really doesn't.
I've had a few days where I've gone up there like solo, and I like green pumpkin. That's really all you need to throw. Like, and I know guys will throw pink or white so they can see the bait a little bit more easily. There's nothing wrong with that. Works great.
Green pumpkin usually is what we usually throw anyway.
Yeah, it's just as natural as it gets, and they love it. Like, they say they love it. Like, that's the one they most typically attack. But I've had a few days where they wouldn't touch it, and it was the weirdest thing. And then I come in with like a watermelon with a black red flake. They won't touch it, and now I'm like, am I retarded, or what's happening here? Because I should have already caught 30 fish in the 30 seconds I was here. And then I throw in something like noisy, like pink, or something with chartreuse in it, and just they snap it up. So there are times when color does matter, but I'm literally talking about
further on into when they're.
Yep, I would say that
already spawned.
Yep,
and they're just kind of hanging out on the bed.
Yeah, but I'm only talking about a handful of times out of like 100 trips. So just be cognizant of that. What are the 2 things that we do that differentiates. Now, like, this is kind of where we're getting into, like, okay, it's not automatic when they're biting. Shit, what do? We approach it one of two ways.
With what? With drop
For
shot
techniques.
or jig?
Yep.
Either shorten or lengthen the tagline on your drop shot, which is that what you're going for?
Yeah, well, you already said the two techniques. Any one of the two techniques.
Drop shot
But
or jig.
we're either throwing something that's in the bottom of the bed and, you know, smacking around the rocks. Sometimes we won't eat it. And my buddy made that point like 5 or 6 years ago.
That was me.
I couldn't remember if it was you or Josh.
That was me.
Yeah, but if they
wouldn't bite, and I was like, throw a drop shot in there. First casting it.
Josh read about it.
That was on the island.
Yeah. I remember Josh saying about it too, though, or maybe he just elaborated on, like, just thinking out loud. But if they won't eat like a Ned rig or a jig, spider jig, whatever, off the bottom, then it's likely that there's already eggs down there, and they're not going to go down and disrupt everything. They've only seen one thing in there, then they're like, whatever, you know, I'll just kind of deal with it. Throw a drop shot in there, now it's up at the bottom, and then like that, they'll suck the thing right up.
Smash their face off their eggs and kill everything.
Right. So if you can't get bit off one, throw the other. Like, I mean, I still throw light line because I don't bother to retime most of my stuff. At this point, we don't go out specifically looking for beds. So I have my light duty stuff because I'm trying to still find pre-spawners. But, like, you know, again, those conditions where that's all we've got to fish, I'm going to fish it. And I'll throw in a drop shot, either drop shot or Ned rig. I mean, if you can't get bit on one of those two, then, like, that's it. Sometimes I'll throw a spider jig if I want to throw, like, you know, really heavy duty line, and you can just kind of, like, swing hard on them, get them in the boat wicked fast. Tube is killer. You know, anything that kind of has a slower presentation coming down in typically works well, because depending on which way they're looking, it gives them a chance to turn, identify, track, and attack.
And sometimes those bigger baits I've seen, well, with largies on beds, bring the females in and attack the bait instead of the male.
Right.
Hence the big one. That one didn't count, but the first one did. Because it was 30-degree water.
Yeah, Chris, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that point. But so let's actually, I'll answer Tim's question before I go on to it for the other 5%, because there are definitely big fish that are not easy to catch, and I've had my fair share of seeing like absolute giants on beds. My buddy and Josh and I saw one that was all of 7 pounds one year, and we had about 10 minutes. No, largie.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Like 6 feet of water. Yeah, to this day, it's still one of the biggest largemouth I've seen out in water.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And we had 10 minutes and the wind kicked up and we couldn't see it anymore. The water was just stained enough and it was just deep enough we couldn't see it. So we ended up giving up on it. We went back a couple days later, she was done and gone. So that was that. But there is still that remaining like 5% that are giants, and they're damn near impossible to catch. So I'll elaborate on that because I found some things that work better for those bigger fish, like 4-pound class and up, especially for largemouth, because those are definitely more fickle. You got to be a little bit more tricky. But before I do that, Tim, what are the estimated time of year for the 3 phases in New Hampshire? Like 60 degrees is kind of your starting point. Once your lakes have consistently hit 60 degrees for your daytime lows, that's like prime time, go time for smallmouth. That's when they'll start pulling up in crazy numbers. They'll start making beds everywhere. And the largemouth are only a couple of degrees behind them, like mid 60s on smaller kettle ponds. Like the largemouth are pretty well stacked up on beds at that point. When like smallmouth are in full swing, you find beds everywhere. Like that's usually when the largemouth are like, okay, now we're fanning and getting prepared. And there's plenty of overlap. You know, it's not super hard to find into that window.
Late spawn this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's just the weather was cold and hot and cold and cold and hot and cold.
And stayed cool. Like it kept everything like mid 50s. For like the last 6 to 8 weeks, it didn't budge. It came up real fast and then it stagnated. And it threw those fish through a weird loop. They would go through like these narrow windows of feasting, like, oh yeah, it's about to be, you know, spawn time. Let's do this. Okay, it's not warm.
Just kidding.
Oh, shit. All right, I'm gonna relax for a little bit. And they wouldn't do anything. So it's been a weird spring, but now we've had consistent weather for the last week and a half. It's been the most consistent weather we've had all year.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of May. It shouldn't have been this long, but here we are. So, those bigger fish, what do you typically do? What do you think you should be trying to do to catch those?
It's tough. off of beds.
Yep. I found 2 things
Oh man,
that have worked.
Throw a big jig
Mm-hmm.
and just keep throwing it and throwing it and throwing it and throwing it. And I've sat that big 7.5 hour. I don't even know how big that freaking fish was. Big. The second time I caught it.
Yeah.
That took me a good 25 to 30 minutes to catch that fish.
Yep.
And the male came up, smoked it, gave it to Jeff.
Here you really thing is that
6 1/4.
That's insane.
And then the next one, boom, that big one. That took forever.
Yep.
To catch that fish.
Jasper, I've heard the same thing. And yes, lizards can be good because they're very active at this time of the year. And they are natural predators to bass for eating eggs.
What, lizards?
Yep.
Yeah. I heard they're bad for them too.
Yes, I've heard that as well. But they'll still smoke them if they come into the bed. Big jig is usually my go-to. Big, like 5-inch craw trailer big. With I think more often than not, I end up throwing a 1/2 ounce football when I'm doing that. I want it to get down there and stay.
Yeah.
So when I shake it, it's shimmying in place, but I'm not scooting it forward like I typically would with like a 3/8. 3/4 ounce would be even better. Like I just want to shimmy it, and it's just gonna sit there and shimmy and not come out of the bed.
You shake the shit out of it, they're gonna get pissed off, and they're gonna come and
Right. Because at that point, it just looks like something.
Feeding on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's where I really like having a big 5-inch trailer too, because if you're really shaking the head 5 inches away, you know, a minor movement is more exaggerated the further you go out. So even though I'm only doing a little bit down here, up here, it's looking a lot more violent. So you kind of get more oomph out of your presentation with the same amount of effort. That's my theory on it. So I specifically have, I don't even know, I think 3 different color variations of a 5 and even a 6-inch craw trailer, specifically for this time of the year. And it's not even just for the beds, it's for that pre-spawn, post-spawn bite. Like they're looking, when they're coming in and they're getting ready, they want a big friggin' meal. And then same deal when they come back out and they're in recovery mode, they want a big friggin' meal. You know, they want to fatten back up and recover. Either they're prepping for it or they're recovering for it. So that's typically when I throw my biggest jigs. And that's also when all the vegetation starts to come up too.
Right.
So I want to be able to stand out really well when they're up there cruising in that shallow crap.
I mean, if you're really looking to catch a big fish off a bed, like a largie, and you only see a little male on the bed, the female's not far, within 10-15 feet of the bed. You might not be able to see her, but she is there.
If you're fortunate enough that you have a boat, or I mean, you can anchor down, but if you have like 2 power poles, talents, whatever, and you could sit like 20 feet back off a bed and just wait and look 30 feet either direction.
You'll see her.
You will. And it's nuts because exactly what you just said. Like there's been a couple times where I see a really good sized bed and I'm like, oh man, that's a pretty small fish. A pretty small male. Where's the female? And all of a sudden you just see this blimp.
It's like, oh, geez.
And you never have a chance because in every instance like that for me, I just don't know if it's luck or what. That fish will never go to the bed. And she'll lap it over and over and over again the whole time I'm there, but she'll never go to the bed.
It's like a female. She's sitting there watching to make sure the dude's taking care of the house. You on the line
You're
yet?
welcome, Tim. So 2 things that I found have worked really well. Technically, it's 3 things. One is a point, and the other 2 are techniques. Point number 1, for those bigger fish, color absolutely matters. And it's funny because a guy that we both know, David, just won 2 tournaments for kayak tournaments last weekend, back to back. And in one of those,
You did?
Mm-hmm. He had a 6.8 pound largemouth one that he fought off a bed. And he said he had to work hard for it.
I believe it.
I don't know how long, I forget. But he said, I remember seeing one comment where he said it was a fish of 1,000 casts.
Literally, it probably took him 1,000 casts to catch it.
And it was, I was thinking to myself, like, as I'm reading through his post, I'm like, I wonder if he tried a bunch of different colors. And then right at the bottom, he's like, and finally I tried this totally different color and she smoked it on the drop. And I was like, yes, that makes me happy because I've had plenty of days like that. You know, even just for like 4-pound largemouth, which is still a good fish to be able to, you know, catch off of bed. Color absolutely matters for those bigger fish. They won't just hit anything. You got to get a little tricky with it.
Largemouth are just all around harder to catch off beds.
On that, except for like the 2 pounds, all the males. You know, as soon as the males are up there, those are relatively easy. But yeah, once the females go on, those are definitely not that easy.
Well, the funny thing is, I was up the road here the other day.
Yep.
And there was a couple beds, and I was like, it was a little like 1 pound male one. I was like, yeah, I'll toss into it. Came right over and picked it up.
Yep.
Like that. I'm like, is it smallmouth? What the hell happened? What the hell is going on here? I don't know.
All right, so the meat of this point for me is, so 1, the point was color. 2, techniques. Wacky rig Senko, drop shot are the 2 most consistent techniques I've found for catching big largemouth. Very, very closely followed by either a big jig or a big Texas rig bait. The really slow fall, and what I really try and do with my Senko is I'll actually downsize. I'll go to a 4-inch Senko, and I'll go with a drop shot hook, like a little 1/0 finesse thing. I want something as light as possible, just enough to offset it so that it does sink, but sinks insanely slow. And then it's kind of hard because to do something like that, you need relatively light line to get a good long and accurate cast when you're fishing something so friggin' light.
Yeah.
But you got to balance that with, in most cases, I'm doing that around vegetation. And if you don't have a stout enough rod, I can't tell you how many fish I've lost just come unbuttoned because they just go right in all the reeds and they're gone. Like, there's nothing I can do.
If you do hook into a big fish from far away with a light line, you better have that troll motor on high, right?
Literally, we have, like, I'll keep it on 10 and my foot's like hovering over, like, come on, you son of a bitch.
Day?
Oh, dude, you didn't even ask, I don't think. I started turning, I'm like, I'm coming.
No, I'm going. I'm like, yeah, please do. Jeez.
It was a drop shot. Yep, nope, troll motor, go.
I couldn't do anything. That was so funny.
That was amazing. It's just, you gas, we're talking, lift up and hit. Oh my god.
Texas red.
So sometimes green isn't doing it, thoroughly orange. Yes, Panda absolutely agreed. For the drop shot, kind of a bigger tag length, because now I typically like an 8 to 10 inch tag almost all the time. That works the majority of the year for me.
Yeah.
When I throw for bed, I'll tie it longer, like 12 to 16 inches. Depending on how deep they are. If they're in like 2-3 feet or deeper, then I'll go that big. But if they're only in like a foot of water, then I shorten it way up.
That actually helps knowing when they bite too, because they'll come up and they'll turn and you'll see them turn.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. I will still throw a wacky rig Senko when I'm doing that. Or Beast Coast Magic Flick. Because the action on that tail and that smaller profile is like, dude, they really nailed it. Like, knocked it out of the park with that design. It is so goddamn good. But one of the things I learned last year, and I kind of expanded upon, was just up at Champlain. Yeah, that's like super carbonated. And then between my beer and my dinner, I keep burping too. I'm like kind of hesitant to say this because it was so goddamn effective.
Which one?
I haven't even told you about it yet.
Excuse me. I'll tell you everything.
I know, I didn't get a chance to. All right, we'll out it. It's still wacky rig.
Don't out it.
The big TRDs on a very light hook on a drop shot. I could not believe how effective that was, because it kind of floats anyway. So, and if you especially wacky rig it, like, that's a lot of meat on those things. It doesn't go anywhere, and it just sits there, man. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just this big long fucking stick sitting there in the middle of the water, and you just hold it. And because I'm already using such a light hook, I'm using a 1/0 finesse drop shot hook, and then this big 4-inch whatever the big TRD is. I think it's 4.5.
They're big though. They're pretty much a Senko.
Yep, and they can't rip it off because of that material. So as you get past the barb, it does not come off. And most of the time, they just kind of nip the end anyway. But if you're in the middle of it, they just served it right up. I didn't miss a single fish on Champlain when I did that. I tried Ned rig a couple times. That one that I posted the short of, the clip you saw, prior to that, I pitched in there with a Ned rig about 20 times, and I missed her 10 of those. The other 10, she just wouldn't touch it. Literally the first cat I was thinking about, I was like, okay, I know she wants the Ned. I know that color's it. I've got the bigger ones. So I threw it on, I took my drop shot out, threw it on, first cast, she fucking inhaled it. And I was like, okay. And I did it a couple more times too, and it was nuts. Like, it's crazy how good it is. It just, for some reason, largemouth with it suspended, they're more likely to eat than they are off the bottom when they're on beds. That's what I found.
That makes sense.
So, but that's my personal anecdote. That should be one more tool in your toolbox.
Tokyo rig would be good too.
Ooh, now that's something I hadn't thought about. But you're probably right.
Just did.
I wonder if that would be better with a heavyweight.
Or a power shot, whatever it's called.
Well, it's still drop shot.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting so excited for May in a couple weeks. That is absolutely going to be post-spawn, by the way. You know what we're going to be throwing? Nothing but giant weightless or weedless baits, bud. I should order more Kitex and stuff.
Yeah, I got a bunch of creeps.
Yep, we need a lot of those, a lot of belly-weighted hooks. The place is choked to death with weeds, so you can't do anything trouble.
Damn.
I know, no glides.
Damn.
There might be one window where you can throw a glide. But we'll see. Anyway, we're getting off track. All right, Snatchy, I'll look at it.
Shape of a banjo.
So, so that covers like, you know, pre-spawn, spawn. Those are kind of the big things. Post-spawn. Where are you looking for post-spawners first, and with what? Because this is kind of like the transition to the magical time of the year, the thing we start to like to do now.
All over the place.
No, legit though.
Pretty much.
Like, you got to cover water.
You definitely got to cover water, and then when you find them, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
You catch one or two of them, they're gonna be stacked up. Most likely because there's gonna be a bunch of bait. Windy days.
Some of my best days of fishing I've ever had was immediate post spawn with a spinnerbait on high wind days.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you.
We did it
Mm-hmm.
on that one stretch.
Yep. I cannot tell you how many 4 and 5 pound bass.
And I float down. Just kind of
Yeah, just hammer them over and over again. Spinnerbait becomes key. And so at this point now we're talking the lakes are upper 60s, right? Across the board. Everybody's off bed. Smallmouth are way done. So for smallmouth, they will still actually stay relatively shallow until the water hits 70. And they're not going to go super deep, but like that 5 to like 20-ish foot range is pretty good. Structure is still really good. They're not really chasing, like if you got smelt, they're not quite too heavy into those yet. They're kind of eating a bunch of everything else, like tubes, jerkbaits, crankbaits. Yeah, things like that. Ned rig is still always good from drop shot. You know, you're just kind of working around hard structure. But that's like a really good window for aggressive behavior. And then largemouth, especially for that post spawn, you got to cover a little bit more water. They're a little bit more sporadic. Although I'm also specifically talking about shallower ponds in general. I don't really have a ton of experience looking for post spawn largemouth in deep water. So I'm not sure how much it differs there. But in a lot of our even big but shallow lakes, they could be kind of everywhere. But that's when the big bait window really goes off.
Oh yeah, we crushed them last year within like what, a couple week window, and we were just
yeah, it was probably like a week and a half after like the beds were straight up empty, and then that like it just kind of turns around after that point. Give them a little time to recover, and then like jigs and just big baits in general, it starts to really go off.
Yeah.
Covering a lot of water, man. Like that moving bait bite, like yeah, that window is here for the next 8 weeks. Of like no questions asked, you're gonna catch them on a big moving bait somewhere on that lake. Mm-hmm. So always have one tied on. But into that post spawn, like not just immediate post spawn, but going later into the post spawn, water temps in the 70s at this point. All those largemouth are still pretty shallow because what happens right after the largemouth are done spawning? It's usually always right around Father's Day, and they all come right back up to the bank and they're looking to feast on something.
Mm-hmm. Jig.
But what are specifically the bait fish?
Oh, the perch. I mean, bluegills.
There you go. Yep.
Not perch.
Perch spawn. Perch is like ice out.
Test?
Yes, it is.
I failed the test this week.
Yeah, but this is prepping me for my test. My fishing game one.
True.
Bluegills spawn when the water temp's like 75 to 80, somewhere in there. I just know it's usually about 80, like mid upper 70s surface water temp. Bluegills start to spawn, and they move up like crazy. And you can always tell where there's a bluegill beds because there's like 50 of them in like a 50-foot circle.
Yeah.
And they're like literally right on top of each other. It looks like the surface of a golf ball, just all dimpled out, like laid out.
Does. And if you have 360, you can see it from a mile away.
Oh, dude, big time! It's insane. You can find crazy small bluegill beds with that thing. It sticks out like a sore thumb, and just working anywhere in and around all that crap. Super shallow. I mean, like on the bank. I've had some good days where I'm literally slapping. It could be 6 inches of water, and I've had that. And the shoreline is damn near vertical. Just from like erosion from boat traffic, and their tails are up against the damn bank. Slap the bank, comes down, they smoke it.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere from there, just out off that next transition. And it's an amazing window where they're crazy and they'll hit a lot of things. Jig, as Andrew said, that's where my big moving swim bait bite really starts to go off. Top water season, especially in the immediate post spawn, because like the bass are still in a fry guarding stage. Technically, I guess you could say it's still spawn, but for me that's like post spawn because they're off beds.
They'll still hit your bait. Yeah, they're gonna be more protective of the actual fry.
Yep. So buzz baits, whopper ploppers, frogs, like that all starts to go off. You got to cover a lot of water and be prepared to present a lot of stuff. But this is like where the funnest part of the season starts to come in, right immediately after post spawn, where you can do all that fun shit. Like, oh yeah, dude, I want to go just bomb a frog up in the super shallow pads. You're gonna get bit, and that even goes off well into the bluegill spawn too. So it's like cover lots of water, but you can stay shallow right up until water temp is like consistently in that 80-ish degree range. Now you're talking like into July, and then that point, like once the bluegill have disappeared, now you start shifting deep. But that's a totally different, another part of the season that we're weeks and weeks away from.
Yeah, we'll get there. We get some big fish out deep doing that, like throwing jigs down in those big boulder fields, but you'll see in a couple weeks.
Yep. And that's like, especially for post spawn largemouth, that's where your square bill bite really starts to go off. Like we talked about that 2 weeks ago with deflecting it and hitting it against cover.
Yep.
Like
break
prime
those
time.
bills off that thing. Definitely try and break the bill off that thing off rocks. Really get hit.
Not just big rocks, but like just patchy boulder areas too. You know, like anywhere you can find hard structure, especially adjacent to like good spawn flats, not just for largemouth, but with the bluegill. You kind of can't go wrong, man. And then that's where, you know, again, my big bait bite really went off last year. I had like a 2-week window where it was, oh boy, water temp was like low 70s. So largemouth were definitely off, but the bluegill were already starting to move up. So it was kind of that in-between transition where like, okay, we're done in recovery, but we're kind of ready. And the bluegill were like, yeah, it's actually just about go time. So they're really starting to mingle. And I was throwing a, you know, big 7-inch hard body, you know, 2.5 ounce crank down swim bait, crushing them. It was amazing.
Was that when you were with your dad?
Yep, my dad, my uncle, and I think we caught like 60 fish, a little over 60 fish in like 6 hours.
Especially out of that place too. That's
right.
Ridiculous.
Dude, and we caught 70 fish.
I know you caught a lot.
Yeah.
I know you alone caught like 30.
I did. That's why I think it was closer to 70. Yeah, because no, they both had about 20 each, and I definitely broke over 30. And if memory serves correct, I had 17 that went over 3 pounds. Just on that giant swim bait.
That's ridiculous.
It was the most fun I've had in a long time. That was amazing. Man, that's kind of the gist of it. I thought that might take a little bit longer, but I was kind of banking on more people asking more questions. And the chat went dead on us.
Yeah, what the hell? Riley Reed, where you at?
I don't know. Is there anything else that we could elaborate on for you, this guys? I was trying to think of like, we're at that weird kind of crossroads here, not crossroads, but a turning point with the stream where like, I don't want to have to keep bringing a very specific topic to the streams. Like I want to just be able to answer questions for people. So if you got them, bring them. I got a message right there. Stream night is great. Very informative. You guys are great. Oh, thank you, Drew. Greatly appreciate it, buddy.
Cute.
Yeah. Not Banjo Minute or Riley Reed, I swear. I'm hating post spawn so far, to be honest. Why is that?
Where is Kotu?
I think he was one that said he was in Rhode Island. You might just be in like that weird funky transition of the post spawn that we were just talking about a second ago.
I'll be watching that. I got you.
Jasper, where does smallmouth go midsummer?
Deep. No, not completely deep, but
well,
midsummer, like.
Well, technically you could split up midsummer into 2 phases. There's deep where they're hugging bottom, and Brownie Factory, you know that area we fish. 30, 35 feet of water, drop shot, tube, spider jig, Ned rig, and they're on the bottom, and you'll crush them. But that's when the water is like
hot.
No, not quite that. That's like the first phase of midsummer when it's like coming up to the mid 70s.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but then once water gets like closer to 80 and is hung at 80 for a little bit, they're still like deep, anywhere from 15 to 35, 40 feet. That's where I'm specifically talking about bigger lakes. And this is where you can definitely have more luck. Shallower lakes become much, much more difficult for smallmouth midsummer.
Yeah.
But bigger lakes, thermocline becomes huge because they like that water temp, what that presents. They also like to feed in the bait fish that like to live around that transitional area. So that depth that they like to be in, anywhere from that 15 to even say 40, 45 feet, and actually even in some places down to 60, 65 feet. It shifts from, wherever there's good bottom contact and structure and stuff on that range to the middle of the lake, over 100 feet of water. I don't know how to find them. I just don't. That's the last thing that I can absolutely confidently say. I have no clue what I'm doing. When they're midsummer, suspended, open water, just roaming, chasing schools of bait fish. I have yet to figure out how the hell to land that down.
I was deep diving jerk baits.
Right, but even still, all the lakes
cranks.
we're talking about are 1,000+ acres. Like, how do you find them in the middle of that?
True.
Like, Brownie Factory alone, you're talking about
that's a lot.
2,000 acres alone of where they could be in the middle of the summer. With literally nothing. I mean, and you and I know, we've checked every goddamn hump in that lake that has to offer.
Every inch of that lake we've looked.
We really have. But when they're in that suspended mode, they're not on any of that. You just got to find them open water. How do you do that? The only way you can do that, you got to have really good electronics that you're fucking good at. And you got to cover a ton of water. Or live scope. And get lucky. Because even at that point, side imaging becomes useless. If they're suspended, it's damn near impossible to pick them out when you're roaming around just trying to use side imaging. Even if you've got like the Humminbird mega side imaging, which is amazing. And you can pick out so much stuff. But unless you've got like this ridiculously dense bait ball to pick up, I haven't personally been in a boat to see that, like being out in 80 feet of water and be able to come across a giant bait ball that's suspended 30 feet down, 80 to 100 feet off the side of the boat. Like it's in the middle of nothing. So it's kind of hard for that to present a shadow that would cast to the bottom because they're just too far away. So it's just hard. Unless you drive right over the top of them, it's hard to find that.
Right.
Oh, there you go. You can answer that one. John Mango. What's your go-to on those super slick days with no wind? Go home to.
Huh?
Go home.
No, I will still, depending on, like,
spawn and pre-spawn.
Like, sunny. If it's sunny, I will go look for deep boulders, someplace where they can get in some shade, or up on shore where there's overhanging trees where there's shade. Big timber where there's shade.
Yep.
Pretty much anywhere where you can find shade.
Or hard structure.
Right.
But at that point, you also have to rely on mega long bomb casts.
Yeah,
you have to get the bait as far away from you can. And that's like that 1% of the time of the year where the lighter line you have, the better off you are. Like, I absolutely do not think that you need 6-pound test in any way, shape, or form for 99% of the year.
No.
Until those conditions. And then 6-pound test will absolutely outfish 8-pound.
Yeah, no. I've definitely gone. Well, I've been to the place up where I spent a lot of time learning smallmouth last year. In dead slick water. And I was throwing jerkbait in about 30 feet of water.
Yep.
And I was having them follow me up to the boat. I just could not get them to commit every single time it happened.
Right. It's crazy how far a smallmouth will come up. Like, I've always read that smallmouth can be suspended 25 feet down, but you'll still get them to come up and hit a topwater bait, like a nice popper or walking bait. Like, they'll still come like a bottle rocket, man. They'll come up and smoke it.
Insane.
Tim, have you ever fished Wentworth? Yeah, actually, I was just there like 5-6 weeks ago with my buddy Travis, who's a guide. No, so we actually did okay. No, that was Ossipee.
Oh, that was awesome.
Ossipee sucked.
Right.
And that's a place that, like, that's tough as nails. That is a giant freaking bowl, which I don't like. I'm much more of a structure fisherman. So that was a tough place to fish. And it was just slow that day in general anyway. But then we went to Wentworth. I've been there twice now. That place is pretty good. The boat launch is a nightmare, though. There's, like, no parking, so you gotta work around that. But if you can get in, it's worth it. It's a fun place. What did I miss? Oh, Donk Swabby. How do you fish the spawn in Milfoil Lake where you can't see the beds? You just called it out. Power shot?
I think it's called power shot.
The heavy duty drop shot setup?
Yeah, it's like a 20-pound, 15, 20-pound leader
Or just straight fluoro, yeah.
Or straight fluoro, yeah.
I've done it a few times. I have both like a 7-foot medium with straight 12-pound fluoro, and then my jig rod's a 7'2" medium heavy fast with straight 15-pound fluoro. And I'll tie on, maybe like a 12 to 16-inch tag to a 1/4 ounce weight, something relatively light, and then a 2 or 3/0 extra wide gap hook, and like Texpose, a fluke, or a Senko.
Something big, or even just like a big craw or something.
And just let them eat that thing before you set the hook. Let them really get it in. But that's what I've done in some heavy vegetation.
Just a supersized drop shot, really.
Yeah, and it's finesse to a degree, but it works. Been difficult for me to locate bass last couple weeks. Having much better days when water temps are sub 60.
Yeah, it's that time of year.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like this crazy warming trend we just had, like, and if they were already like in that spawn, nearing post spawn kind of phase, then like you just gotta wait out that transition, man. But give it like another week and it's probably gonna start being lights out for you. Yeah. Just gotta let things stabilize.
Try fishing in a different pond.
Yeah, go deeper.
Yeah, something with a deeper pond or a shallower pond. You could be all the difference.
Yep.
The fish could just be turned off.
Good luck, Chris. Let me know how you do, buddy. I really want to know what you find up there.
Where'd you go? Oh, yeah, okay.
14 ounces. Tim, agreed. Launch stocks live not far from there, so that's where I've tried as well as a few lakes in the southeast area. Nice. Do a review of it of the Lowrance Ghost. Oh, baby. Actually, Andrew came over to give me a hand with it yesterday. That the hardest part of putting on any new trolling motor is mounting the base and then lifting the whole freaking head up and putting it on and trying to bolt it. It's a little cumbersome when it's that big and heavy to do it with just one person. But with two people, it took us 2 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Like literally 2 minutes to drill 6 holes, bolt that all up, and put the thing on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't long.
So then tomorrow we're gonna try and wrap up all the wiring. It is heavy duty,
dude. That thing is gnarly.
Tell them about the prop.
Dude, the prop it's a lot smaller than the What? Shore's in here. Who is that?
I guarantee it's John, the owner of Dragon Custom Tackle. I guarantee it. You're fucking 10-ply, bud.
That's awesome. Fucking spare parts, bud. What was I saying?
Just made my night. Oh, the prop for the Ghost.
Oh, the prop for the Ghost is like half the size of the one for any Minn Kota, but it's 2 to 3 times as thick. That thing is gnarly, and it's going to chop some grass.
Yep. There's like no way that the prop blade is going to deflect at all. Like it's overall diameter is probably 2/3 of what the Minn Kota blade is.
Oh yeah.
But it's at least twice as thick.
It's ridiculous.
They're not going to deflect at all. There's going to be no flexure in those things whatsoever, dude. They're just going to cut. And I like the fact that it's a brushless motor, so I get more efficiency use out of my batteries, and it's also more powerful. The Ultrex, the 24-volt Ultrex is 80 pound, and the Ghost is either 87 or 90, but I actually think it's 90 pound.
I think it was closer to 90.
Yeah. So I can't wait, man. It's going to be good. You look at me. You're cumbersome, bud. Jason, hitting Back Lake in Pittsburgh. That is a place that's very near and dear to my heart.
Where?
Back Lake in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. It's the only lake up there that I'm aware of that has smallmouth in it. They're rats. Although at this point, I'd like to think that maybe they're not, because the last time I went, I'm trying to think. So it's near and dear to my heart because they used to be where my dad and all the guys in my family would go when I was a kid. And I have very fond memories of when I was a wee little shit. When I still have a picture up somewhere in the house. I was 5 years old, all camoed out. I used to wear my hat like this, my brim propped up, and I was standing out there like, that's my dad. Took a picture. I'm ankle deep in the water, and I remember the next morning, like I just loved dressing like my dad, so I had like all like army gear crap. And there was like this weird Air Force like kind of bomber jacket. I had the rooster tail tied on, and I hooked myself like 40 times just trying to walk to the shore. My dad was getting so mad at me. That's my earliest memory. We went to Tall Timber Lodge every year for like 5 or 6 years. And then it was one of the last times we did something together. It was all the males, my entire family. And that was probably like when I was 16, 17, maybe 15, somewhere in that window. So shit, 20 years ago. Ooh. That hurts.
Mm.
It hurts my soul a little bit.
Mm.
But so like 20 years ago, we were catching smallmouth, and they're all like 1.5 pounders. So literally anything we've already talked about, like up there, even though it's way far north, the place is pretty small and it's relatively shallow, if memory serves correct. Dude, I mean, straight across from Tall Timber Lodge, if memory serves correctly, if you're looking at the entirety of Back Lake here, I think Tall Timber's here. If you come down over here, I think, I'm gonna look. I need to go look at a map. I guarantee you I'm right. If this is Tall Timber, if you come down over here, this is Rock Pile Point, and that's where we're hammering smallmouth. And I guarantee you can right now. I want to know if I remember this from almost 20 years ago.
I don't know. Possibly.
I was fucking right, dude. Straight across from it, there's a house with a cement, like a rock retaining wall, and right off of it was that.
Oh shit.
Spot on. I was off a little bit. The lake is rotated 90 degrees, so it lies west to east. And Back Lake, so if you turn this 90 degrees, I was right. Back Lake is here, dead center, on the north side. If you come straight across south, there's a house with nice like stone retaining wall, maybe concrete or whatever, and there's just like a nice shallow rocky point right off that. Like, just go there, man. You'll catch them all weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty fun, I think.
Hey Mark, how you doing, buddy? Third time there, first time there was nice. That's awesome, man. I loved it up there. And it was actually, they had like this crazy good 5-star chef that was up there the last couple times we went.
Stop, I'm hungry.
Dude, like fresh caught trout that they smoked. It was, I don't even like trout, like rainbow trout that much to me.
Back around, get fucking drunk.
You get some not so fresh trout there. Backwoods trout.
I ain't looking for trout when I'm going to. I don't know about you, but yikes. Good for the moistures.
Anyway. Yeah, dude, just from there, transition areas, like, I'll look it up later, but if you just look up a depth map, try and find, if the water's at least 50 degrees, those smallmouth are going to be shallow. That's all you're going to know. If your daytime low is at least 50, and by that point, when you go, it'll be consistent at this point, you'll be good. So in the northern part of New Hampshire, they have a lot of trout and trout anglers to compete with.
Yeah, trout anglers like to kill fast.
Yep, and for up there, the forage is very limited. They've got whatever crawfish, perch, if they're in there, which most cases there are, and then smelt is typically the main forage for them in like far northern reaches in New Hampshire. But if it's a place that has a good population of trout, and especially lake trout, like there's just a lot of competition for a relatively limited food source. That's my take on it. So that's why they're kind of runty. Whereas
Panda, you're absolutely correct.
Great Lakes haven't, and then there's that. I mean, if you're talking specifically Great Lakes region, yeah, gobies, like, I mean, they've got everything. They've got however many crawfish. Plus, I mean, they've got all the perch. Plus, they've got gobies, and the gobies alone are enough to make all those fish just fatter than hell.
Yeah.
I want gobies in New Hampshire. I don't give a shit about trout. I don't care what it'll do to the trout population. Fuck them.
I like trout.
I do too, but I'm tired of New Hampshire spending 100% of its resources on something that probably only makes up 40% of what all anglers in the state do.
Yeah, I know. There you go, Mike.
Alewife, there you go. Yeah. And that's the thing. We don't have that in New Hampshire. Like we don't have the gobies. We don't have
Not yet.
the alewife. Not yet, dude. There's no way they're not going to end up in New Hampshire at some point.
I'm guessing in the next 10 years they'll be here.
They're
They
already
have to.
starting to come into the northern end of Champlain.
I know.
Everybody's convinced by it. Can you imagine Champlain with a like Lake Ontario amount of gobies, like percentage wise?
There would be a St. Lawrence from Alexandria to where's that? Whatever. bay.
Ticonderoga all the way down. Or
No, I'm saying from Alexandria to what's that?
Oh,
that big bay out there. It'd be all the fishermen right there.
yeah. What the hell? I can't remember.
All
off
on
the top of my head.
Champlain.
Seriously, I mean, Champlain's 80 miles long. It's 260,000 some odd acres. Memory serves correct. I know it's right about 250,000 acres. And
Yeah.
Champlain. Yep. If you were to get gobies in there, and that's the thing about Champlain, it's not a size lake. There's definitely size in there, but not like St. Lawrence and Ontario and Erie and Candlewood's actually got pretty good size. but the sheer number of fish is insane. If you all of a sudden give them a buffet of gobies too, I think Champlain could very quickly and easily become the best smallmouth country smallmouth lake in the country.
It would.
Just the sheer number of fucking 3.5 to 4 pounders there is stupid.
We wouldn't have to travel all the way up there anymore.
No, could you imagine if we had something like that 3.5 hours from home? I'd stop fishing in New Hampshire entirely. I'd have to change the channel. You'd never find me here again.
802 bass.
Oh, that's Sean. I can't be that. Sculpin are kind of the same, and New Hampshire has a version of it. So Sculpin are like the saltwater version, and then there's another thing, I forget the name of it, but New Hampshire has them, and they almost like identical, but they're very limited number in New Hampshire, and they're nowhere near as active or as prolific as gobies. I'm assuming that like their nutritional value, like buildup, is the same. They look identical. I think they kind of live the same, but for whatever our version of New Hampshire is in here, and it literally looks just like a goby, they're very limited. So it's kind of like a non-factor. Hey Carl, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, dude, like Winnie
needs to dry up.
Lakes region, period. Winnie, actually, Lakes, they need to turn the Lakes region into a version of Champlain at this point, because now the rock bass are here and they have no predators because we don't have pike up there. We don't have walleye. So they have nothing to balance those things out. New Hampshire keeps saying, oh, it's going to self-regulate. From fucking what? They have nothing in there to eat the damn things. That's why they keep exploding in population once they get in here. They just don't, to be fair, they don't have the resources to tackle it, in my opinion, but
they have every single bass angler in the state
that would be willing to help.
Absolutely help.
Yep.
Fill 5-gallon buckets of rock bass every day. Every time you're out, fill a 5-gallon bucket, and that's it.
Right.
That'll start to help.
It'll start to help, but until we get natural predators in there to help out, like walleye, that's the thing. Just New Hampshire is so up its ass so hard about the trout, and that's all they care about. That's all they put all the resources into.
I went fishing at that small pond. They had to have put at least 6,000 to 7,000 trout in that tiny little pond. Literally everywhere I looked, there was schools of 30, 40 trout.
Right.
Everywhere. It's insane.
If you put gobies in that lake, we were talking about this last year, that would, I don't know how long it would take, but I would say, I mean, without a doubt, in the next 10 years, it would go toe to toe with maybe not Ontario, but Erie.
Who, what?
Brownie Factory. If you had like an established foundation of gobies in there. Because it's literally just like Lake Ontario for the makeup.
You would catch a 5 to 6 pounder almost every time you go there. Especially people that know the place.
Right. So that's one of 2 lakes in the state that are one of the best consistent smallmouth lakes in the state. Where, I mean, you should really go there and catch a heavy 4-pounder pretty often during the year. If you really know what you're doing and you're working, fairly hard for it, like you can, it's good. Like the consistency for the quality of those places are really good. And if you could all of a sudden stuff that place full of gobies, it would blow up. But like, I know, Mike, you're absolutely right. It's going to take a while for them to make that transition. But
right.
Like at the same time,
the
like
population of that bait would be big enough where they would.
Right. It would be nuts. It'd be amazing.
Why do so many people care about trout?
That's the way New Hampshire's always been.
Same thing about us, though. Why do so many people care about bass?
Right. I remember reading that New Hampshire spends something along the lines of like $100 million a year between like, and that's entirely 100% all encompassing for everything bass fishing related. So what you spend on gas to come up here, both your boat and your truck, lodging, taxes earned, people buying stuff or whatever, like literally anything that a bass angler does from the moment they leave their house till they come back, everything that they touch and buy and consume, like that's everything encompassing that figure. And it's insane how much is spent. And yet 100% of resources, or almost all of it, goes to trout. The trout industry is still pretty damn good here, so I'm not saying get rid of it, but it's not right that bass get the shaft. Like, could you imagine New Hampshire has 6 hatcheries in the state? Could you imagine if they just took one and dedicated it to a smallmouth trophy program?
It'd be ridiculous.
It would be insane. If they actually like do the same thing like Texas, like, okay, they already have literally everything they need to do this. They just need to define it and say, okay, well, we have all these fucking trucks sitting here empty that are literally capable of carrying thousands of fish in fresh aerated water to bodies of water literally all over the state. So maybe fire those things up and go take a 5+ pound smallmouth from one of these lakes and use that for your breeding program. Throw some of the fingerlings from those things in different places. I don't know, that's just me. I didn't think it's that hard.
They could definitely do something, at least to help it out.
There has to be balance. I'm not a fan of how one-sided it is.
Biggest thing right now is rock bass.
Yep.
That's destroying population of everything, even trout.
Right. And Tom, I absolutely agree with you. And I think a big part of that too is because trout fishermen do nothing but shoot themselves in the foot. Why else do we have to keep restocking it? Those assholes do nothing but take and take and take and take and take. No, if we didn't have a stocking program, there wouldn't be a freaking trout left. And our state, it's both a blessing and a curse. We have a hard-on for, like, you know, our history and, like, keeping it all natural, which is good, you know, but, like, maybe change the restrictions a little bit so people can't just, like, if they didn't have a stocking program in New Hampshire, how long would it take for them to completely, literally decimate the trout population in the state?
Gone.
2 years?
A year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
Gone.
So maybe tighten up the restrictions a little bit so you don't have to dedicate as much. But it's, you know, it's backwoods, freaking free world New Hampshire, and, you know, let people do what they want. Okay, well, balance, man. That's all I want.
Rant.
Yeah, and rant. It's just, yeah, man, you gotta split it up.
Going smallies and mass them. Stay down there. I'm just kidding.
I would, dude, there's so many good smallie spots down in Mass too.
There is.
It just sucks with the traffic. Just going down to the Cape. There's a handful of ponds down there. But could you imagine going down to the Cape to go fish for smallmouth on a Sunday and trying to drive back home?
No, I don't want to.
No.
I feel like going to Winnie. I'm all set.
It'd be 10 times worse.
Yeah, it would be.
It'd be 10 times worse. Could you
Boston.
imagine trying to get back over the canal bridge with my boat?
Nope.
In the middle of all that traffic?
Nope.
It sucks enough when there's only one other person on the bridge. And I'm
Right.
like, someone's gonna die.
Dude, we almost hit the sidewalk.
Dude, it's like, what was that? The Sagamore? Is that the one we go? Well, I know there's two. One is Sagamore, but I think that's the one we do. That's closer to the coast.
I don't know. Was that the bridge?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I think it's
the name of it.
I think it's the Sagamore. There's the Cape Cod Canal, and there's two bridges that go over it, and the one closer to the coast, on the east one, I think is the Sagamore. And going all the way up the bridge, there's like what that tall for a sidewalk curb.
It's like 60, 18 inches.
I came within an inch of clipping it with my trailer.
Ooh, I'm like, what?
I get like I was coming up to it and like I didn't have room to go over, and I look over, it's like just
yeah.
skate right
trout is literally the only thing that gets stocked here. Wait. Yes.
For game fish. Now the other things that they're trying to do, although I think so, I guess at one point they actually did try walleye somewhere years ago, and there's some guys that are trying to get it to go again.
They tried to do pike in a couple places,
and they've taken over. I mean, look at New Vermont. There's a single place in Vermont that doesn't have pike. They'll do just fine. What the hell is it? So the other thing that they're really working on is they're trying to restore all of the natural resources in our rivers. So there's actually, like, I live really close to Souhegan River, and they're still working on like taking out dams further and further up. You know, so what is it? Anadromous, whatever fish that live in the ocean and then come up into freshwater streams to spawn, whatever the hell that's called. They're trying to clear up dams so they can these fish return to all their natural breeding grounds. The Merrimack River runs straight to the ocean. Like they're starting to make progress kind of on that to a degree, but that's where, if they're not stocking trout, they're working on stupid things like that. So like shad, alewife, maybe not
get
alewife.
the bait in first would be good though.
Yeah, so they're trying to do that. They've been dumping them upriver, like above dams, hoping that like a freshwater kind of population would take over. Like Candlewood Lake has phenomenal.
Well, there's a very small population of walleye in New Hampshire.
Yeah, just on the Connecticut River. So that's, yeah, if it's not trout, it's things like that they're trying to do. They're trying to restore the natural balance to all the rivers. Oh, they'll do better than they want. Yeah, that's true. Go to Sagamore to fish stripers at dawn and leave before noon. Yeah, that's the way to do it. I'm surprised, Panda. I thought that was kind of California's thing, that they did stock a ton of trout. And that's why all those fish are so freaking big, because they already have a good healthy population existing of trout plus what they stocked. That was always my impression.
Right. I don't know.
One hatchery in Hillsborough that reportedly sells largemouth. Huh.
I don't know if that's legal.
Anadromous fish are like salmon and shad. They swim up river spawn. Yeah, okay. Other problem with Cape Cod lakes is the fishing pressure is ridiculous at this point. Yeah, that's true. That sucks, Panda.
Oh.
There goes all your double-digit fish. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Now you're gonna be a pleb like us with only single-digit bass. Sucks to be you. I don't know, man. Like, is there anything else? It's 9:36. We kind of covered pretty much everything that I want to talk about for spawn. You know, like it's spawn fishing, man. Like, a lot of that's pretty straightforward. If you've done it before, you know everything we've already talked about, especially for the spawn part. Hopefully, we were able to kind of give some insight as to like what makes it a little bit easier for catching those more fickle fish. How to kind of tackle all three phases depending upon which phase you currently find it in. There's going to be a window where it's pretty much impossible to avoid catching fish on a bed, but it's a narrow window. At some point, you know, whether you just gotta be willing to drive an hour north or an hour south, you can continue to follow that pre-spawn bite up and then shift. You know, we go an hour north and then 2 hours south of that, but you know, only an hour south from home, and we can continue to follow that, you know, post-spawn bite. So we're pretty fortunate where we live. We have such a wide variety of places that we really don't have to bed fish if we don't want to.
Right.
But hopefully we give you guys pretty good insight as to what we've been doing to make it work.
Jasper, I'll let you know at the end of the year.
I can't even say anything about that because he probably will.
No, I'm not.
Shit, now you have to fly an hour to back rack. Talk life. Oh yeah, dude, I can't wait. Really, Panda? That was that long ago? Oh, that's when they stopped? That's insane. Same fish was caught later, no trout plants, and weighed 13.
That's
Damn.
Lost 4 pounds.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, you see those fish though when they catch them. They're not super long. They're circles.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, they still get long too, but they're not like, you know, like Texas or Florida bass long. But yeah, Jasper, chances of catching a 10. So I know of a 10. I saw pictures. I saw it on the scale. 10 pounds 4 ounces. Was that 4 years ago now?
Oh.
The secret spot from Grub.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worst kept secret in New Hampshire. That nothing against Grub, by the way.
No.
Please do. It's
that place is not. That's so many people fish it.
Yeah, and it's nothing against him. He didn't know. None of us knew. Like, I believed him when he said this is a secret spot, and then like I can't begin to tell you how many people come out to tell me, hey,
I never
dude,
heard
have you
of
fished this place? I'm like, fuck, that's supposed to be a secret.
I never heard of it until he brought me there, and then all of a sudden I just kept hearing about it over and over. I'm like, oh no,
right?
It sucks.
But so anyway, that was
a giant.
10 pounds 4 ounces.
That was big.
I'm looking for that message.
I want to catch obese ass mollies.
Oh wait, back it up. We miss. Oh right. 10 one big lake here, Diamond Valley Lake, still gets trout plants. Huh.
Look at us when we're drinking beer.
Look at that. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, dude, Panda, you've been going crazy looking at all those friggin' fish on Instagram. This is what I was referring to. Okay, this is from, who's it? Snatchy? Oh yeah, Snatchy Panda. This is what I was referring to. Nico and where I'd like to call them bell bottoms. Texas rig on this. Very simple. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, those hooks are what we throw. There's actually, how many cases of swim baits? I mean, those are 1/8 ounce swim bait hooks. Yeah, I literally have those hooks right there. Same principle, but those are only 1/8 ounce. So I had an idea for those, and they'll still work for something else I have in mind. But they've been sitting up there because it's like a very narrow window of the year where I try and make that work. But that worm, you saw that.
Yeah.
I've
seen those before.
I know a lot of guys do well on that, especially on a shaky head for that thing.
Oh yeah, that little thing.
Fishing mode. Have a good night, bud.
Later, bruh.
Ow.
Easy on the broken wrist.
Yeah,
Do you guys want to see this thing without the brace on it?
It's gross.
It's late. Chances to kind of die off.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up after this too. Show them your gross wrist, and then we'll call it a night. We covered everything. It was a good night. Numbers were way down though. Not a lot of people showed up.
I mean, it's pretty good looking. I don't know if you can see which side was.
Your arm looks like grotesquely skinny right now.
I lost like 7 pounds in my arm.
Yeah, you look like you atrophied really bad.
So it's still broken. I went to the doctor's today, and they told me.
Have a good night, Jasper.
They showed me the X-rays, and it is still as broken as when I first did it. But he said it's healed enough to take the cast off. So
Progress?
fishing is going to be a lot easier now because I actually went and cut this whole area out of my cast.
How did you cut that out, by the way?
A knife.
There you go. I like it.
Scissors, maybe?
Scissors. Have a good night, Snatchy. Yeah, man. All right, that was good. All right, we'll have to pick a better topic for next week. It was good. Thank you for everybody that showed up. Greatly appreciate it. Numbers were definitely down. That was the lightest audience we've had, but
I think I already know why.
chat was active. Why?
Because it was so hot. People were out doing shit.
Oh, probably.
It's lighter later. People are just out doing stuff.
Well, yeah, and it's a Spawn topic too. I wouldn't be surprised if I.
People are like, scoff.
Right.
I know what I'm doing.
I also made that meme to make fun of like literally just a handful of people. A lot of people missed the point of that too. Like I had to.
Didn't like that.
No, I had to clarify on that. Like everybody thought I was trash talking people to bedfish. I'm like, God damn. Like
I saw that and I was like, oh no, here we go. Ding, ding, ding.
I was like, I didn't think. I'm just gonna stop posting anything other than my videos, because like I really like I thought about that a lot over a year, and I thought I had my thoughts very coherent and like plain to understand. Clearly not. I had a few people that were just like, why are you shitting talking bed fishing? I'm like, I'm not. It literally says in there, this is specifically about social media and the way people post about it. That post was for 2 things. One, for newbies like me, when I first started fishing for smallmouth. I literally had no idea it was that easy to catch smallmouth off beds. I did not know. I grew up fishing kettle ponds for largemouth. I did not catch smallmouth. I didn't know. First few times I go out catch smallmouth, like half of them I couldn't even see there on beds. I was literally just blind casting the big boulders and we were smashing them. Went and posted about it. I was like, oh my god, like I've always wanted to catch big smallmouth, and I had this phenomenal day and it was amazing, and it was like, it's great, son. I'm like, what'd I do? and like I got mocked for it, and that pissed me off. I'm like, I don't understand, because it was literally that. I did not know. I did not understand. And finally someone was like, dude, what you're doing is the easiest thing in the world, and here's why. I'm like, thank you. Someone that was actually nice enough to explain what the hell was going on. So I've seen it like the last 3 or 4 years where people post and everyone's like, oh, hey, you just catch them on beds. And I'm like, the first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, haha, dummy. And I was like, no, you know what? That's really hypocritical of me to even say that, because I was that person. And so that was half of it, right? Like if you see somebody that, and most of the time they even say like, hey, I'm really new to fishing, and look, I just had a great day of smallmouth. Like, okay, this is probably off a bed. Like, what were you doing? Oh yeah, I was fishing. Some people also got caught saying they were throwing live bait, which you can't do in New Hampshire right now.
Right.
So like, don't fucking mock these people, man. Educate them. Like, we should be helping grow the sport and like teaching people. Like, let's not be dicks about it. Like, just tell them, hey, awesome, great, you caught a great smallmouth, and it is fun. I'll never ever deny that. Just heads up, this is really what's going on, and educate. Like, that just came up with one of my subscribers when I posted about it. He didn't know either, and I elaborated on it. He's like, huh, no shit, I did not know that. That was half of it. The other half of it was guys that actually know what they're doing and go out and all of a sudden with like, they post nothing for like the last 6 weeks. And all of a sudden like, dude, we went out and crushed him today. Caught like 25-pound bag of smallmouth. It was great. And they're both, then that's it. Like, they're pretending like it's something special. And then you see in the pictures, their boat's parked on the bank and you can see beds behind them.
Yeah.
It's like, so you were bed fishing, but you're being a dink and you're lying about it. So you make yourself look like you're a great angler. That was the other half of it. Liars like that. I don't give a shit if you bed fish. I bed fish. It's fun. I try not to because it's too easy and I'm still trying to learn. Bed fishing doesn't really help you learn. So I avoid it where I can. That was the whole point of it, man. For the newbies, recognize it, be nice, educate. For the douchebags that lie about it to make themselves look like they're great anglers, fuck them.
Pretty much.
No, I literally had said ignore them. Like, you know, like you can tell guys that are trying to make themselves look great and mislead what they're doing. That if you go on bedfish and you're just like, I don't care. Again, I do it. You know, I know, you know, people go out and like, yeah, man, had a fun day of fishing today. Caught a couple big smallmouth. That's entirely different. You went out, you're right, you caught a couple big smallmouth, and everybody could probably tell you're bed fishing and nobody cares. That's different from, oh my god, we absolutely smashed them, we had a killer bag today, couldn't believe we put this together. That is an entirely different connotation to what you're trying to put out.
By the way, it doesn't matter, you're not in a tournament winning money, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But it's fun when you bring someone out new to smallmouth fishing and get them on a bunch of decent sized bass. Especially, or bring somebody out and just get them their PB, even if it's off a bed. It's the biggest smallmouth of their life. It's still cool. It's fun. And for the kids, bring kids out and doing it too. Which, I need to bring my nephew out, because I got my boat working. And I'm gonna go have him snipe some beds. He's gonna catch a bunch of smallmouth. He's gonna be stoked. And I already know where I'm gonna bring him.
See, look, I just got myself in trouble again.
Uh-oh.
Jesus Christ. See, everybody just...
Forget it.
Let's try this.
Who is this?
There we go. The blonde angler. She posted a picture of 2 awesome largemouth.
Jesus.
And she said, this was like half an hour before the stream. Finally, for the love of God, some largemouth. I haven't caught a largemouth since January, to be honest. I was kind of getting tired of the smallmouth. And I literally just wrote, blasphemy. And I just got a text from a friend saying that. I literally can't fucking win, man. Everybody takes everything I say so fucking negative. All right, well, that's great. So,
Yeah, whatever, social media.
all right, this is a fun stream. Thank you everybody for coming out to watch. Greatly appreciate it. And I'll wrap this up. Andrew can sign off as always. And we'll be back next week.
What do you want to talk about next week?
I don't know. Hey, send us topics.
Yeah, text us, email us, DM us, whatever you want to do. What topics do you guys want to talk about? We'll discuss them and we will come up with something. Have a good night.